When I embarked upon this new phase of my project, I found myself talking a lot about values and its place in politics and political conversations. And one thing that was persistently bothering me was that as much as I was talking about values, I wasn't too clear on what my own values were. And so one thing I ended up doing that helped me to clarify that a lot was to look at where have I been putting my money, what organizations have I agreed with their mission enough that I wanted to support it financially. And that's something I would encourage you guys to do if you're not totally clear on what your own values are. Looking at where you put your money into is a great place to start. If you haven't been donating money to organizations, I would recommend, even if it's just as like a thought experiment, if you think first about what organizations do I think are really improving the world and making it better, and I would contribute to if I were financially able to, you can then distill from that, okay, what are the values that I am holding near and dear to my heart? And so I wanted to share with you some of the organizations I've donated to and the thought process behind that. And the very first charitable organizations that I can remember donating to had to do with like adoption services or foster care. For instance, I donated to something called Children's Adoption Project, Court Appointed Special Advocate. These are places that are helping with getting hard to adopt children into better home situations. And there were a few reasons for that, and my reasons sort of expanded as I got older. Initially, what was getting me was I was pretty young, and I was frightened of the idea of accidentally getting pregnant. And I really appreciated the idea that if I got pregnant, there was a way that I could bring the baby to full term without having to raise it to adulthood. I'm pretty uncomfortable with the fact that in society today, the standard place where people's mind go if they don't feel either in a position to or if they don't want to raise a baby, that the first idea is to abort, to halt the fetal development. And I was actually shocked. I read this statistic earlier in the year that said that estimates indicate that there are about 1 to 2 million families in the US that are waiting to adopt, meaning up to 36 families per available child. And the way that abortion is such a prominent item of discussion in today's society, just it made me assume that adoption just wasn't a reasonable prospect, that not enough people wanted to adopt. And when I realized like how many people do, I was like, oh my gosh, like let's do this. Let's encourage this. But the basic idea is that I really value the idea of, on the one hand, if you are pregnant and you do not want to raise a child, I don't think it's good to force you into it. I also don't think if you are a developing fetus that it is appropriate to halt your development unless you're putting the mom's life in danger. If someone's going to die anyways, yes, I can see it being the fetus instead of the mother. Other than that, I'd like to see these babies being delivered and then put into a family that can care for them and raise them properly. So I wanted to put my money behind that. As I got older, I think I was in my mid-20s or late 20s when I read the book Our Kids by Robert Putnam. And that really did a number on my own worldview. And it talked about the opportunity gap between upper class, middle class, and lower class families and how significant that is by the time the child reaches kindergarten. And it sort of brings up, I want to bring it back to today because I know a hot button issue right now is DEI and getting ethnic minorities and historically disadvantaged people into places where they can grow and move out of their I guess, lower class station in life if they are in the lower class. And I support that idea, but I don't feel like the policies that we put in place recently are really doing good to advance that. For example, I know Harvard's in the news a lot right now, and the idea of quotas and affirmative action on a college level is something that a lot of colleges have been employing. And there's research out there indicating that if you set quotas for a certain amount of each ethnic class to be represented in certain amounts, it ends up being that the wealthiest people of a certain ethnicity are the ones that benefit from that. And so if you are a lower class person from any ethnicity, be it white, black, Asian, whatever, you end up being disadvantaged by that. So it ends up not really helping the lower class people, lower income people, which are really the people that need that opportunity the most. I've also read that DEI initiatives, while they're good in intention, a lot of times, the majority of the time, they end up emphasizing racial differences, or if not differences, of just emphasizing like, hey, this person is different and these are the stereotypes associated with this person. That sort of seeps into our minds, and we end up being more divided rather than less. And what I've noticed is that a lot of times the people who are disadvantaged because of the environment they grew up in, their family life, their community, their neighborhood. And that can be an awkward thing because there's only so much that the government should be involved in that. You know, like one thing that I think most people can agree on is a parent should be allowed to raise their kid as they see fit, provided they're not grossly neglecting them or abusing them or anything like that. And I think putting money towards getting children into a good home environment where they can thrive is really one of the best things we can do for reducing inequality on a large scale. Now, I'm going to acknowledge that's not perfect because, I mean, if you're already an adult, then putting money towards getting little children adopted or fostered is not going to help you. But I do think it's not going to solve everything, but it's going to solve a good chunk of it. That's my opinion on that. Another place that I've donated to is the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression. And that, hopefully, if you've watched any of my other videos, then you know the value that I place on freedom of speech and reducing censorship and reducing bias and being able to exchange ideas and ask questions and get a better understanding of all the issues facing this country. And so I initially had that idea, and it was in terms of I wanted to educate myself first. And once I educated myself, I did want to make these videos and make sure that everyone else sort of knows what I'm knowing and is thinking about what I'm knowing, but I'm still just one person. And so the way I saw it was, if you really stand behind something and you want to see it being emphasized and valued in society, then yes, it is a good first step to educate yourself and talk to other people about it. But if there is an entire organization that just has a lot more money and manpower behind it and is doing more to advocate and litigate for that sort of thing, that's just the logical next step. So those are a few organizations that I donated to and the values underlying them. And I would love to hear what organizations other people have donated to and why. The end.